Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1331.
Never stop improving.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest, calling in from Cincinnati, Ohio, Eric Keller. Hey, Eric, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
Hey, Mark. Yes, the engine oil is warm and the gas tank is full. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Eric Keller has transformed his hobby and passion for all things BMW into Enthusiast Auto Group, known as EAG, a specialized business known for quality preservation of the most significant BMWs produced over the past 4 decades. Started in a college dorm room, he surrounded himself with talented BMW experts, including his brother, Evan Keller. At EAG, they source, rehabilitate, and find top-level BMWs for fellow enthusiasts like me all over the globe. They manage all functions of BMW preservation in-house, from mechanical service and repair to complete restoration work in their paint and body department. Focusing primarily on BMW M-Cars, thousands of cars have gone through their renovation program. And I'll tell our listeners, I ran into Eric when I was at the Esoteric Open House in Ohio. It was so good to meet you in person and see some of the fantastic cars. I tell you, Eric had some really cool cars there, including an M1 that was quite spectacular. So Eric, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little more about your business and a very obvious passion for automobiles and BMW M-Cars, one of my favorites?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Well, thanks for having us on, and it's good to connect with you and share our hobby and passion for cars with a lot of fellow enthusiasts all over. It's a pretty kind of cool story. My grandfather, Evan and I's grandfather, Bob, was in the farm machinery industry, and he was a John Deere dealer starting in the 50s, and my father came up in that industry working for him and learning a lot of valuable lessons, and the hardest working man I know. And he followed his father's footsteps, teaching a lot of the lessons that he had learned to Evan and I. And he opened up his own farm equipment resale facility, doing a lot of the preventative work and restorative work to the farm equipment, which gave Evan and I a really good technical basis working with our hands. We didn't go to the school for it. Rather, we learned it by doing it. And, kind of learned from others, of course, and he surrounded us with all of his staff and treated all of them like family. And, ultimately, we went to school and forced our family to go to school and get some degrees. And Dad fired us, I think, when we were 14 years old, told us to go out and get a real job. And we just, kept working because every dollar that we were able to put in, that got us closer to what Evan and I really wanted, that magical year 16 or 15 when we can get a little early and go out and buy that car. And so we just always had it ingrained in us to work really hard, and we could definitely have some money to go do what we were just always passionate about, which was cars. And it's been a fantastic ride ever since. And so it's really a blessing to turn our hobby and passion, especially the BMWs, into something we get to do every day and surround ourselves with really great guys that love it and share the passion in everything that we do.
Absolutely. It's a great story. I love it. The work ethic that your dad built within you and your brother is fantastic. No doubt has paid off. And I love the fact that he kind of booted you out the nest by firing you and said, okay, now you get out on your own and learn how to do your own thing. It's one of the best things he probably could have done for you. So it's a great story. Well, as we continue on your journey, though, I would like to start with a success quote or a mantra. This is some kind of saying that's been instrumental in forming your life and your success. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So Eric, take the wheel.
Yeah, it's been a great ride. And I think, I don't know exactly where this came from or how it came about, other than, we've always challenged every person that we've brought into the EAG family as we continue to add more and more staff, with a simple mantra that just never stop improving. And any and everything that we do, we always continue to try to, is there a better way? Is there something that's going to last longer? Is there something that's going to be better for the experience for the customer, for the technical service or repair that we're doing to the car? And that never stop improving mantra has served us extremely well. And I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't say that to one of our staff, when taking the morning rounds and checking in on everybody and seeing how everything's going. Definitely instrumental in helping us get to where we're at.
Well, it reminds me of the old Japanese Kaizen philosophy of sharpening of the saw, constant and never-ending improvement. And especially when you're dealing with restoring old cars, because people are going to get in these things and drive them. And if they're not safe, you're putting them in harm's way. But more importantly, in the automotive restoration business, we all know there's a lot of folks out there doing things kind of part way. They get about 80% done and then they kind of give up. You see these cars sometimes going across auction blocks and they look really shiny and nice, but when you start to crawl under them and look at them, you realize somebody did not think of this mantra, never stop improving. They just stopped doing and never went forward. So
yeah, we call it putting lipstick on the pig, and we see it. We see it all the time. We've got so many cars that are shipped to us that have just been purchased, from auction or elsewhere. A lot of the online auctions, the cars come straight here, and we're like, well, this doesn't quite match what you thought it was, but we can help you.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough, because especially in this world of social media, everything looks pretty in a picture, and you can hide things and not show things. So caveat emptor, or better yet, get a hold of someone like Eric if you're looking for a special M-Car, BMW historically that has already been vetted, gone through, and would be really perfect. I want you to go back in time and share a story with me that instigated your personal passion for cars. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew that you were going to be a car guy?
Yeah, we always were going to different car shows and events with our father at the Cruz Brothers auction in Auburn, Indiana. And throughout the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, right before I think eBay ended up buying them, there was, 4,000 or 5,000 cars always for sale during Labor Day weekend. And, going out and seeing all the different cars and knowing what each one of them were, which was a game we always played in the car with our father, being able to see it and know it before the other, it was almost as a competition to a degree. And just understanding all the little differences and tricks, and this has this fin and that has that fin, this has this engine, etc. And doing that with all the muscle cars of his day, and seeing him really passionate about it, just certainly laid a great foundation that Evan and I have built upon to this day.
Yeah, I had Dan Cruz as a guest here on the show, Cars Yeah podcast. I know John Cruz as well, and that family business that they built up over the years. And if I recall right, they really kind of started not only with cars, but farm equipment and construction equipment and auctioning all those things off when companies need to liquidate things or whatever might be happening. So car auctions are an interesting spectacle. I've had many people, including my wife, who really isn't into cars that much, but gets very excited at car auctions. Same with my daughter. Just the excitement of car auctions. And again, you got to be careful. Bring somebody with you smart if you've got a checkbook at a car auction who can tell you, what, don't bid on that thing. Nope, don't set a price. Don't go over it, because you might end up with something that you don't really like. I would love for you to talk about the roads you've gone down that maybe have been challenging or even faced a failure once or twice along the way. And the reason I like this question is others are going through the same thing. And I want you to share your story and then tell us how you learned from that lesson so that you can move forward in a positive way.
Sure. This industry is very, very dependent upon talent and skill. And the technical side of things is, again, not something you can just instantly teach and read a book and now you know how to diagnose a problem that has no fault codes. The car doesn't even have a fault code system a lot of times with the 80s stuff and earlier. And so having the right staff is definitely been probably one of the biggest challenges, especially early on, is, when you're small and don't have a name or reputation or track record, it's hard to attract, the right skilled crew to help accomplish that goal. And regardless of what one person can do, it's an orchestra doesn't sound great without all of its instruments, in unison and in chorus. We've been really blessed to have found some really great guys over the years, and then continue to add more and more staff. And now that we've got some of the best in the industry, we're very, very fortunate that the EAG family, as we affectionately call them, has attracted a lot of talent from elsewhere, and it's really awesome and just a really humbling experience when you get unsolicited emails or calls from people out of state that want to come and join the team and work on all these beautiful M-Cars and special BMWs to preserve them for the future. And I don't know exactly what there's one magic trick or secret sauce. It was just a lot of hard work and a lot of commitment to keep going. And when the wrong, what was you thought the right guy turned out to be the wrong guy. It's hard and it's HR is really challenging. But I think that hopefully it feels that we're through the thick of it and have gotten to the point where now we've got a lot of people that want to come work for us, and that's just such a great feeling to know that we're doing things right, especially taking great care of our people along the way. They're very, very devoted and really have the passion to do it right the first time, and they really wear their reputation on their sleeve, and knowing that they're the last person to see and touch that car during the final inspections, during the final detail as it's going on that enclosed truck to go to its new home, 2,000 miles away. If there's a problem, it's our problem. We take that really seriously and really do the best that we can to ensure that we don't have those type of phone calls, because learning from those experiences and we've made mistakes and it's how you handle them is really what has helped shape who we are as a company. We try to obviously make as few mistakes as possible, and we've definitely learned the hard way a lot of times along the way, and there's no shame in that. Again, never stop improving, so we hopefully don't have very many of them per year. But with machines, things we bounce around in the truck. A filament on a bulb can break, and we'll send it to you. And if that's the worst that goes after a delivery, then everything's A-okay.
You're doing pretty good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You said something earlier that struck a chord, treating them like family. And you mentioned that's the way your grandfather and your dad ran their businesses. This is a common issue I've heard, and it's a common problem in all sectors of business, is finding the right people, the best fit, and then keeping those people there, motivated, growing, and so forth. So let me ask you before I jump to the next question, because there's a lot of people out there that are going, okay, well, how do you do that though? I understand the problem, but how do you attract good quality people, and then how do you keep them? So if there's one or two things you could share with us that you found work well for you in that respect that could translate even to different industries, what would they be?
That's a good question. I think giving our crew the ability and the autonomy to make their own decisions and to be their own, I don't say be their own boss, but we've given them a lot more freedom in this industry than others. I guess a good example is the majority of staff and techs in the automotive world are all flat rate, and they're judged and based on how fast they can get stuff through the door, and how fast they get it done is their pay is proportional to that. A flat rate shop. We have never been a flat rate shop. Rather, we're a flat quality shop and pay our guys the same check every week. And it's a salary-based approach that is rather unconventional and doesn't always work the best for the production capacity, but it's proven to work the best for the quality control and the ability to really ensure that we're taking care of all those last details that we're known for and that we've built a reputation upon. And it's not done with pressure or with, hey, this is a 3-hour job and you've been here 6 hours. And so, really giving, I guess to generalize it though, it's giving the team the ability to make their own decisions, to make some mistakes, learn from them, but also any and every time that there's an opportunity to improve, and every day I challenge them, was this the best approach for this problem? Could we have done it better looking back? And having those type of conversations in a really open, communicative format, while it's not everybody's, forte, and a lot of people, you almost have to, pull it out of them a lot of times, that's definitely helped us overcome a lot of challenges and stay out in front of stuff before it became an issue, both, from an HR standpoint, but also, again, from that quality control, because that's really the basis of everything that we do is ensuring that it's right. And, we've got to rely on them to make the best decisions they can. And that's, it was hard. It's hard. And the first couple months, the learning curve's pretty steep. And the first, full-time tech that we hired, which was going back 15 years, it was a big expense, especially for a small business. And it's just what it's taken, the sacrifices that we've had to make as small business owners to be competitive with the bigger places that have a lot more weight and money to throw around. We've never had that before. And so we had to get creative, but you've got to definitely take care of those that take care of you and your business. And the fact that they care just as much about the company as we do, it's, you can't ask for more than that in any business. But it's a culture that takes a long time to cultivate. But you've got to lay a good foundation and then build upon it.
Nice. Very nice. Let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first really special vehicle and maybe share a memory you have about that ride.
Yeah. I'll probably do two because it's hard to pick. The first one is I have automotive attention deficit disorder. I mean, I have it really bad. It's AADD. And,
you've added to the acronym.
Yeah. And I mean, it was, a dozen plus cars before I graduated high school. And it was nothing more to just taste every flavor in the car rainbow. And there were so many cars out there that I wanted to own, and none of them were very nice, none of them were very expensive, but they were all very different. And there were certain things about each of those cars that I liked, but I just kept searching. I never found the car that like totally just checked all my boxes. And so, I'd get bored really, really, really quick. My dad brought home a BMW in the mid 90s. And that just kind of perked our ears up a little bit, but we couldn't afford that as kids still in the early years. And I think we were in high school, and I ended up buying my first BMW in my first year of college, very early, like second week of college. And it was a good little 525i. Sold it to a professor quite quickly, one of my business professors, and made a little bit of money. I'm like, this is maybe something that kind of works, like a mini aha moment. And then the second BMW, that I bought, which was an E28 M5. And that car finally, was a car that offered all the things that I had been missing in the total, driving experience. I totally felt in control of everything that was going on. There was really clear feedback in really just the most pure analog form. And that car just did everything so well that it just cast a spell on me, saying, you know what, we should let's look more into these M-Cars. What are these M-Cars all about? And that's what kind of spiraled into, hobby, turned into passion, turned into now full-blown, addiction status. And, if I don't buy an M-Car in a 36-hour period, I start shaking. And I'm almost being literal in that. Same kind of, I guess, can say for the sales side of it, but we've been very blessed that we do have a pretty good rate of turnover in a lot of the cars these days. Almost most of the cars these days actually end up, finding us organically. Our phone rings, hey, I've got something really special and I want to keep it in a good home. But I think that the really special car, though, that's the second car here, it tells a really great story. I had to buy this back, and actually I bought it back when we were at Esoteric. I don't know if I mentioned it to you when we were walking around, but it's the second E30 M3 that Evan and I ever bought. And it was owned by 3 PCA instructors in, I think it was Maryland. And it was on S14.net, one of the forums popped up, and it was a very well-written ad, very informational. You could tell the guy was all business and to the point, and that he loved the car. And we called him up and said, hey, we're seriously interested in your car. This would be our second E30 M3. Love everything about it. Can you tell us more about it? And we're qualifying the car. And he kind of took the conversation away from us and went the other way and started kind of interviewing us by phone here in order to even see if we were worth his time. And I'm like, okay, this guy probably has something really nice, really special. So we get through everything. He kind of says, okay, these guys are serious. If you guys are going to come, bring cash. And so Evan jumps on an airplane, which is how we did it back then. Evan jumps on an airplane with a license plate, a blank bill of sale, and a bag full of money. I think it was maybe $18,000 or $15,000, something like that. And he gets there and he tells me the story. The guys. The first guy that bought it sold to the second guy, said, hey, if you ever sell this, you got to call me first. The second guy told that to the third guy and had to check with the first guy as well. So it was, it was this group of 3 guys' car. And so they kind of all had to sign off on Evan when he got to Maryland. And apparently, Evan passed the test and he was there for quite a long time, but ended up driving the car back home. And we've built a really great relationship with that car because it's the first car that was offered to us back from the person that we sold it to. He had AADD as well. Richard McGinn in Texas. he and his brother came in. Richard lives in Texas, and then his brother, I don't remember his name, but McGinn was in Chicago. The Texas brother flew to Chicago. They jumped in the 911, drove down to EAG, and the third M3 we had, which is the one they came to look at, was a white one. And his brother ended up buying the black one as well, kind of salt and pepper, 2 for 1. It was the first time we ever sold 2 cars at the same time. And about 6 months later, the Texas guy called me up and says, "Hey, do you want your old car back?" And that's really where the aha moment that really has formed our company kind of came into play. And that car we've bought back. So Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago with Esoteric, when I agreed, said, "Hey, yes, you got a done deal," shaking your hand through the phone. That was the 11th time I bought that car.
Well, I tell you, you've discovered a really important thing here, because I've had a lot of car resellers on this business, or in the show, I should say, that are very, very successful. And all of them tell the same story, that they've bought and sold the same car multiple times. They just keep making money on it every single time. So that's a little secret to the history of what you've built there.
Yeah, well, and the beautiful thing is, it's not about the economics in that story for me. It's more about what that car's taught us, and the processes and the mistakes, and what do you do when you get a exhaust stud stuck, in the head. Buying it back every time, we got to judge our own work. Since we're putting it through an open checkbook, recommissioning every time that we have had the opportunity, we're perpetually judging the quality of our own work a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I just completed the inspection of the car this morning. That's the 11th time I've been under that car with one of my staff. And it's been 3.5 years since we've seen it last. And we're like, we wrote a 4-page single-space line because we're doing things a lot better now in the class of 2019 than we were even in the class of 2016.
Yeah,
so, we
cool.
Never stop improving.
Very nice. It goes back to the mantra. How about seller's remorse? You've sold lots and lots of cars. Is there one in particular you wish you had kept and just hung on to?
Yeah, totally. Our very first, I'll call him by definition, he was a whale client. First guy that we ever built a really great, strong relationship with. And he was the first guy that we ever sold a car to for just a bit over MSRP, which was an 88 M5 that had only 5,000 miles. And we traded a bunch of cars back and forth up until this time. And it was 2000, either 10 or 11. And this was his third version of this very special E26 chassis M1, very similar to the one that we showed you at Esoteric. And it was white. And it was, the best one that he could find over a 20-year span. And I'd just completed a round trip deal. I sold a gentleman a car and then ended up buying it back a couple months later with a certain quite aggressive entrepreneur just outside of Chicago in the automobile accessory industry. And I'll just leave it at that. He convinced me to sell him this M1 that I'd been hoping to own forever. He convinced me to sell it to him while it was still on the truck. So it never even made it to Cincinnati. The first M1 that we'd ever bought, biggest expense by 2x of a car that we'd ever bought, but we bought it on trust because of the relationship with the client. And so, okay, I'll sell you the M1, but remember, enjoy it, have fun with it, show it with others. But when you're done, call us. We would love to have the opportunity to buy it back and keep it in a good home. And the remorse part comes in when 6 months later, I get a phone call out of the blue. I hadn't heard from him even after the car arrived. A call, no answer. 6 months after this, I get a call. "Hey, Eric, thanks for the M1. I sold it, made $50,000. It's now in France. See ya. Bye."
Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So I spent the next 6 years not necessarily trying to track down that VIN number, but to try to replace another white M1, hopefully in my birth year, 1981. And it took me 7 years to find that M1 that we were playing with last week. And so, nice. Everything happens for a reason. And, the car that we ended up with is a much better car and has a much better provenance and whatnot. But, that stuck with me and taught me how to not do, you don't do business that way. And
that's unfortunate. Some people are that way. That's just the way it is. And you just move on and you keep their names in a separate book to go, not sure I want to work with that guy again. So I understand.
I'm really lucky. I'm super lucky that I can count on one hand that list.
Yeah. It's pretty small in the car world, fortunately. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I would love for you to talk about what has you excited and fired up about your business right now, what people could learn to expect from you if they call you and want to do business with you there at Enthusiast Auto Group, EAG.
Yep. Cool. all of like that black on red E30 M3 that we've had 11 times, the lessons that we've learned with all of these cars coming back through, and the same models of cars, again, all M3s, M5s, Z8s, the rarer the car, the specialer it is, the lower the mileage it is, the more likely we have 3 of them. And having our guys having that exposure to that level of quality consistently has given us a very different prescription lens and has taught us on the technical side the practices to really fix these cars right, what we call a rejuvenation. And we've been having cars sent to us. I mean, we've almost pushed it away just because we're so busy with our internal stuff on the sales side that we've not really had the time or energy to focus on fixing all these other people's cars when we've got 150 cars of our own that take 3, 4, 5 weeks, sometimes months to get through the program. And so we finally made the conscious effort to throw a little gasoline on this fire, and we've opened up another rejuvenation center workshop. We just leased it just a couple of weeks ago. It's the only building that we lease, thankfully. Most of the rest of all we own them, but it's the 6th building in our campus, and it adds a big workshop to be able to bring in and open arm these rejuvenations of these special cars, and make sure that the cars are in our wheelhouse, but adding more to the AG family and more resources to preserve these cars that are worth preserving for the future. They're not making more of them, especially these analog ones are not to be recreated anytime soon.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, congratulations for that. I think it's fantastic. My listeners know I'm a huge M-Car fan. I've had 4 M3s. I have one currently, and I love those cars. They're great. They're just awesome all-around cars. So kudos to the kind of vehicles you're putting out. And I'll tell our listeners, having met Eric at the Esoteric Open House in Ohio there, all the stuff I saw that he brought, and he brought a bunch of cars that are the top-notch things. So if you love these cars, check out Enthusiast Auto Group. I'll put a link to his website on his show notes page. So Eric, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. Hey, Cars Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Covercraft. I've protected my vehicles with their products for decades. Want to keep your vehicle's interior looking new? It's easy with Covercraft seat covers. They'll protect your seats from the daily abuse of pets, children, weekend adventures, and even those everyday spills. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. All Covercraft seat covers are easy on, easy off design that are machine washable. You can choose from many fabric options, colors, and accessories, all designed and carefully sewn for your special vehicles. Their seat gloves are semi-custom fit for cars and trucks, and their seat savers, a favorite of mine, are custom tailored to fit your seats like a glove. Work truck seat covers are tough, durable, denim weight fabric. It's like putting a pair of rugged jeans on your truck's seats. Want to stay warm? Covercraft also offers seat heaters. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark at Cars Yeah sent you. That's covercraft.com. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting. Okay, we are back, Eric, and I've got a bit of an introspective question for you. If you were a vehicle, what kind of car would Eric be and why?
I think that I would probably be a E39 M5, 2003 era, the 3rd generation. And that sedan, to me, it's kind of the Swiss Army knife of all of the analog BMW M-Cars. or just all cars of all manufacturers for that matter. I mean, it just does everything really, really well. It's not the absolute best at any just one thing. But it does, there's not a category where it does not excel quite well. It's the sum of all of its parts and all the lessons that, the brand and the manufacturer and the engineers had learned over about the 20 years that it took from the first M5 to this third generation to really hit out of the park. And it's, I think, in a lot of ways, the swan song of the sedans, especially with the dipstick and a key that you stick in the ignition and twist. That's just a great all-around car. And I think of myself with our team and all the different hats that I have to wear or I choose to wear in that fashion.
Yeah, great car. I love those cars, man. You drive those things, put your foot down, and they just don't quit putting the power on. They're absolutely brilliant. Love them. Love that whole era. Well, Eric, we're entering the last lap. I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of the throttle answers of that M5. So here we go. What's the best automotive advice or automotive buying advice you've ever received?
That's a really good question because we've been very fortunate with our clients and learning from them, but also putting them on what we call the EAG car counseling couch and listening. Once we determine what the goals and priorities are of that next purchase, I really try hard to coach our clients to buy as a seller. Put yourself not in the buying perspective, but the ownership's perspective. Now that you're responsible for this car, what does this time look like? Is it going to be fun where I'm fixing it all up all the time? Or is it going to be, and a lot of guys, that's what they want to do. They want to do the projects with their son. And I'm all for that, obviously. I've got a son myself and look forward to sharing that with them too. But understanding that there's going to be a time when you're probably going to sell that car. And so making sure that you buy the right position to accomplish your goals of that ownership experience, you'll make a much better decision buying the car, running through that whole ownership exercise before you ever reach for your wallet.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your successes over the years?
I'm sure my mom's going to completely agree with this one. And frankly, my wife, even more so. Determination. It's not a function of if, but it's a function of how.
Definitely a trend I've seen here: tenacity, perseverance, determination. All those with entrepreneurs. How about a resource? Is there one out there you'd like to share?
I think a fun one that we just have been turned on to the last couple of years. It's more of an event, but it ends up being a resource with all of the relationships that are cultivated. Is the Vintage, the BMW gathering just outside of Asheville in Hot Springs, North Carolina. It's an event that most people, ourselves included, will drive to from wherever, and it's a big car show. It's a big reunion of fun people and great cars. And walking the event, I think there were 650 cars this year, and seeing all the different eras. It's mainly from the 90s and back, and they have a nice little swap meet. But the relationships with the people that we've met just in the 2 years that we've been going to that event have certainly been really beneficial, and I'm sure will be long lasting. So I think it's at the Vintage would be your key search term is at thevintage.com. I think it is.
Absolutely, at thevintage.com. Now, if I could arrange for you to have a drink with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would that be? I
think it would have to be Johnny Ciccato. He's super accomplished driver, both with motorcycles and cars, and has had a lot of ups, but some downs too. His relationship with BMW, starting in with the March team, Formula 2, and then bumped up to Formula 1, getting to a kind of a high peak, but then only to crash and break both of his legs, which is a trend that's happened in our family as well with my brother, and knowing how challenging that can be to come back from. And then, here just, in Evan's case, 5 months later, in Johnny's case, about a year later, getting back on the horse and jumping back in the driver's seat and facing the fear and going out and then ending up winning the championships, many different accolades, in his relationship with the cars that we love too, of course. And I got so much stuff I'd love to talk with him about when the opportunity presents, and hopeful that actually might happen sometime. Very cool. How about a book? Is there a book you'd like to share with our listeners? The most recent book, I think, is probably going to be the easiest one to pick because it's sitting right here on my desk, and the author of it was on your show at some point in the past year, maybe 2 years ago, I think. It's the new book for the third exhibit at the BMW Foundation by Jackie Jure named Passion. And I just started going through the first third of it or so in the last couple of days, and it just goes through and tells kind of the whole storyline from an enthusiast's vantage point, how we've gotten to where we're at today, and the cars and the people and the projects, and just the whole path is really clearly laid out over the last 50 years of the BMW Car Club and the great group of people. And I'm fortunate that a lot of the people in the book I know very, very well, and they're very good friends and close clients as well. And she really, good job, Jackie. You knocked out of the park with that one.
Yeah. For those listeners that missed that talk I had with Jackie, go back. You can find it on the Cars Yeah website. Great lady, does some cool things. I got to meet her at the LeMay Museum at a BMW event there one time, which I don't get to always meet a lot of my guests, which is always exciting for me, just like when I got to meet you at the Esoteric event. So shout out to Jackie Jarrett and her book, Passion. Great job there. You can find all these links Eric has shared on his very own show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. Just type in Eric Keller into that search bar and that page will pop right up. All right, Eric, we're up to the checkered flag. And this last question could be a bit of a doozy for a guy that's got AADA, BMW, DDA. All the stuff you've got. Yeah, for a guy who loves cars, especially cool BMWs. I'm going to buy you any cool collector car on the planet today. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to park it in your garage. But there's some rules to this game. The toughest one for you is going to be you can't sell it. You can't sell it to buy a bunch of other toys or shop equipment or hire more people with. You got to keep it. You got to drive it. No garage queens. But here's the kicker. It's the only collector car that you can have. So what's it going to be?
It's hard. Probably the hardest question on your platform here for me.
Mm-hmm. Of course. I'm not going to make it easy for you because I'm buying you a car, damn it.
Yeah. It's so, my first answer was going to be an M1, an M1 Pro car even. But you wouldn't be able to use it every day, and the maintenance and requirements are there. So I've got to go back to the car I took to vintage this year, and a car I've had a relationship with pretty much from the start, just the ultimate form of it, which is the E30 M3 Sport Evolution. I bonded with that car like crazy this past, driving a month ago down to vintage and the twisty roads and actually putting that car through its paces and taking it right to the edge of its limits. That was just some of the best driving experiences I've ever had. And I don't know how many thousands and thousands of M-Cars I've driven at this point. I mean, well, way over 10,000. That experience with that car dialed in was just absolute pure driving nirvana. I was 5 hours late coming home because I got lost purposely in the back roads.
Conveniently.
Yeah, I mean, it got to a point I got myself almost sick because it was just so much curvy roads and the car just wouldn't put a millimeter out of place.
Yeah, that's a cool car. I think they only made like 600 of those. Is that right?
You nailed it. Yeah, you're right on point. Yep.
Yeah, I know the car well. So very nicely done. Well, I'll get to work. Is there a color that you'd like me to find one of these for you in?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to buy it from this really cool place in Ohio because it's sitting in my garage.
So I got to buy a car you have to give to you. Yeah. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I think that's the scenario we found ourselves in.
Well, why don't you just keep the car you have so I don't have to buy it from you? Well, I know why, because you're a business guy. Duh. Yeah. So, yeah.
Salary and the lights just always have to be turned on, and the
of course
machine has to keep fed.
I understand. Well, hey, at least it's parked right in your garage. I think that's cool. Very nicely done, Eric. Well, you've taken me on a great ride today. I knew this would be fun. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. Could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you drive off in your very own car that I'm going to end up buying from you and then giving back to you, your BMW E30 M3 Sport Evolution in black?
Yeah, I think one of the best things in doing this has been listening and learning from others. I spend hours and hours on the phone every day, a lot of times with people I've never spoken to before, but we share the car bond and hit it off almost like we're old high school or college buddies. And I find myself, as do they, telling them what challenges we're coming up against or what the challenges they've had, and just listening and learning from the experiences of others have had that are 10, 20, 30 years further along in life and business than myself, and most importantly, in listening to them, but taking advice and putting it to action. It's been a very, very, one of the best rewards that I never would have saw coming, and frankly, our business is where it's at today because of those experiences and relationships we've built.
Very cool. Sounds like what I do all day long. Listen and learn from people, just like I've listened and learn from Eric Keller here today.
Again, Mark, appreciate you having us on the show. And if you'd like to see more behind the scenes at our shop, our YouTube channel is something that we've just kind of started doing just in the last 6 to 12 months. And it really is a good way to share what's going on at EAG with our clients and friends. And it's very impromptu. It's not professional. It's quite the opposite. If I see something that's pretty cool that's going on that day and I've got 5 minutes, we're just shooting an impromptu video and sharing it with our friends and clients and enthusiasts all over. So if it is something that is of interest to you, subscribe to our channel and certainly follow us on Instagram. Both of those are EAG BMW, and our website's the same, eagbmw.com.
There we go. I'll make sure I put those links up there. Yeah, check this out. It's really fun what they're doing. Kind of takes you into the shop. It's a great ride along. I would encourage you to check out enthusiastautogroup.com. You can go to their website, check out the cars they have, because they've got a lot of cool cars. If you're looking for a very special BMW, this is your source. Nicely done, Eric. Thank you for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your experiences with my listeners. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Sounds good, Mark. Thanks for having us on. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
You're welcome. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp., member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.